what's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of RHOX Garage. I'm your host, Dan, and on today's episode, we're going to be installing part number SEAT-2010 on a Club Car Precedent. Now, in order to do that, we also need part numbers SEAT-2007 and SEAT-2001. Now that we know all the part numbers, let's take a look at what comes in each kit and the tools that we're going to need to perform each installation. So when you open up your SEAT-2010, you're going to find your seat bracket itself and a bag of hardware. You're also going to have a bag of hardware zip tied to the bracket to attach the mount for the rear seat. And then with the SEAT-2007 and SEAT-2001, we have the two brackets and bag of hardware for the SEAT-2007. And then for the SEAT-2001, we have the belt and buckle assembly. And now that we've taken a look at all the parts that we're going to be installing today, let's take a look at the tools that we're going to need to perform our installation. So the tools that we have are a 10mm, a 13mm, and a 5/8 ratchet wrench. We have a 5/8 open-ended wrench, as well as a 17mm open-ended wrench. Now that we've taken a look at all the tools, let's go ahead and get started. So now that we got our cart pulled in the garage here, we want to make sure that we turn our cart off, set our parking brake, and if you have a tow run switch, we're going to turn it to the tow position. And once that's done, we're going to remove the two bolts at the front of the top strut brackets. Now to install the brackets for the SEAT-2007, we're going to take the bracket itself and the longer bolt that came in the hardware pack and place it right where that OE bolt came out of. So I'm not going to tighten this bolt all the way. I want to make sure that I leave it a little bit loose so that I can still have some movement in that bracket if I need it. So now that our SEAT-2007 is installed, we're going to jump over to the workbench and assemble the SEAT-2010 before we put it on the cart. So we're going to take the hardware that was zip tied to this bracket and use that to attach this additional bracket. Now, some of the older versions of this, you might have to thread your bolt through because the powder coat was a little too thick on some of those production runs, but not all of them are like that. I just wanted to make that note. All right, now it's ready to install on the cart. So when we go to install this on the cart, we want to make sure that the brackets for the seat belts are at an upward angle. I'm just going to attach it to the front of this bracket here with the hardware that was supplied with your SEAT-2007. And now we're just going to make sure everything is centered and go ahead and tighten it down. And now at this time we can go ahead and tighten down the bolts that we installed before. So now that everything is tightened down and installed, we want to make sure that when we open up our front seat that it doesn't interfere with the bracket at all. And on this cart we're good, but if you were having some clearance issues, you can actually take this bracket and flip it around so that the arms are facing the rear seat and it'll work just the same way, but it'll give you some more clearance in the front. So now let's go ahead and install our seat belts. So at this point, we are going to install the two receivers for the seat belts on the front seat. So we're going to take our bolt, put it through one receiver. You want to make sure that the receivers are facing the proper direction. We can go ahead and tighten that down. So when we go to install the actual seat belt itself, we want to make sure that we leave the hardware kind of loose so that the seat belt can actually pivot, so when we go to open our seat, it doesn't block it. And for the front seat, you're going to install the seat belt in the front hole. And another suggestion is when you start to tighten everything down, install the seat belt at a bit of an upward angle. And then when you put your seat back down, you want to make sure that you grab these and pull them out of the way because it will interfere when you put the seat down. But because these are just material, they can go ahead and pull them out of the way. Now that our seat belts are installed, that'll complete the installation for part number SEAT-2010 on our Club Car Precedent. Thanks for watching this episode of RHOX Garage. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.